The research ship Nexus Dawn moved silently through space, its metal hull reflecting the light of distant stars. Inside the ship, Dr. Hansol stood before a large screen showing a blue and green planet, his 6 eyes focused on the swirling white clouds that covered parts of the world below. "This is interesting," Hansol said to his crew. His voice carried the curiosity that had made him one of the best xenobiologists in the galaxy. "The planet shows signs of intelligent life, but their technology is very basic." Navigator Yunki moved closer to the screen. His crystalline body caught the light and threw rainbow patterns across the wall. "The beings down there have only just learned to leave their planet's atmosphere. Their longest space flights last only a few of their planetary rotations." Security Chief Baum crossed all 4 of his arms and made a rumbling sound. "Primitive species can still be dangerous. We should be careful." Hansol nodded. "That is wise, Baum. But look at these readings." He touched a control panel and new information appeared on the screen. "These creatures are fascinating. They call themselves humans, and they show abilities we rarely see together in one species." Communications Officer Sora floated near the ceiling, her large brain pulsing with soft blue light. "I have been listening to their transmissions for 3 days now. Their emotional patterns are very complex. They show both great kindness and terrible violence, sometimes within the same individual." Hansol studied the data streaming across his screen. The humans below lived on what the Galactic Council would classify as a death world. Their planet had extreme weather, dangerous animals, and natural disasters that would kill most civilized species. Yet somehow, these humans had not only survived, but thrived. "Look at their physical capabilities," Hansol said, highlighting sections of his report. "They can run for incredible distances without stopping. Their endurance levels are far beyond what we see in most intelligent species. And their strength?" He paused, checking the numbers again. "A single human can lift objects weighing several times their own body weight." Yan Qi's crystal body dimmed slightly, which showed confusion. "In his species. That makes no sense. Usually, when a species develops high intelligence, they lose physical abilities. It is the natural way of evolution." "Not for these humans," Sora added from above. "I have observed their military training exercises. They practice combat techniques that would injure or kill most galactic species. They seem to enjoy pushing their bodies to the breaking point." Baum uncrossed his arms and moved to look at the tactical displays. "Their weapons are crude, but effective. They have learned to kill each other in thousands of different ways. Even, their sports often involve controlled violence." Hansol felt excitement building in his chest. "This is exactly why we need to study them more closely. These humans represent something we have never seen before in the galaxy. They combine intelligence with the physical traits of apex predators." The doctor called up video feeds from the planet's surface. The screen showed humans running marathons that lasted hours, competing in fights where they tried to force each other into submission and working together to survive in environments that would kill most other species. "Remarkable," Hansol whispered. "They have retained their predator instincts while developing advanced society and technology. Most species lose one when they gain the other." Sora descended closer to the group. "There is something else you should know. I have been monitoring their entertainment transmissions. They tell stories about creatures from other worlds coming to their planet. In these stories, the humans almost always win through determination and cleverness rather than superior technology. Fiction tells us much about a species' mindset, Hansol agreed. It seems they see themselves as capable of defeating more advanced beings. Interesting. Yunqi's crystal body brightened again. Should we make contact? The Galactic Council protocols require us to observe primitive species without interference. Not yet, Hansol decided. We need more data first. These humans are too unique to risk a poor first contact. I want to establish an observation post where we can study them more closely. Baum moved to the tactical station. The planet's single moon would provide an excellent location. We could set up equipment there and monitor their activities without being detected. Excellent suggestion, Hansol said. Yunqi, plot a course for the moon. Sora, continue monitoring their communications. I want to understand their languages and cultural patterns before we proceed. Over the next few hours, the Nexus Dawn moved into orbit around Earth's moon. The crew worked together to establish a hidden observation post on the far side, where humans could not detect them with their primitive instruments. Hansol spent the following days reviewing everything they learned about humans. The more he studied them, the more amazed he became. These creatures lived on a world that would be classified as extremely dangerous by galactic standards, yet they had built civilizations that spanned their entire planet. Look at this, he told his crew during one of their meetings. Humans regularly enter environments that would kill them within minutes, just for enjoyment. They climb mountains where the air is too thin to breathe properly. They dive to ocean depths that would crush most species. They explore frozen wastelands and burning deserts. And they survive these activities? Baum asked. Not only survive, Sora replied. They seem to enjoy the challenge. I have observed thousands of humans choosing to put themselves in danger for no reason other than to test their abilities. Yunqi dimmed thoughtfully. Perhaps we should reconsider the classification of this species. They may not be as primitive as we first thought. Hansol nodded slowly. I am beginning to think the same thing. These humans may be one of the most dangerous species we have ever encountered. Not because of their technology, but because of what they are. The observation continued for several more days. Each piece of new information about humans made Hansol more convinced that his crew had discovered something extraordinary. These beings represented a combination of traits that should not exist together according to everything science knew about evolution. Tomorrow, we will take the scout ship down for closer observations, Hansol announced. I want to see these remarkable creatures with my own eyes. None of the alien crew knew that this decision would change everything they thought. They knew about the galaxy and their place in it. 3 months had passed since the crew of Nexus Dawn began studying the humans. Dr. Hansol had filled dozens of reports with observations that amazed and sometimes frightened him. The more he learned about these creatures, the more he realized how wrong their initial assessment had been. The humans are not primitive, he told his crew during their morning briefing. They are simply young. There is a very important difference. Sora floated near the observation screens, her brain pulsing, with the strain of monitoring thousands of human communications simultaneously. I have learned much about their nature by studying their languages and cultural patterns. They have over 6,000 different languages on their planet, yet they cooperate on projects that span their entire world. That level of cooperation should be impossible without telepathic abilities, Yunqi said, his crystal body reflecting confusion. How do they coordinate such complex activities? They adapt, Hansol replied simply. I have watched them learn new languages in weeks, not years. They create new technologies to solve communication problems. When they encounter obstacles, they find ways around them or through them. Baum studied tactical displays showing human military exercises. Their combat training is unlike anything in our databases. They practice fighting in every possible environment and situation. They train to fight enemies larger than themselves, faster than themselves, and more numerous than themselves. And they expect to win, Sora added. I have monitored their military communications. When humans plan for battle, they always include strategies for victory, even when facing superior forces. They do not seem to understand the concept of hopeless situations. Hansol pulled up a video feed showing human athletes competing in what they called martial arts tournaments. Watch this carefully. These humans are fighting for sport, not survival, yet they push themselves to their absolute limits. They continue fighting even when injured. They celebrate both victory and honorable defeat. The crew watched as human competitors grappled with each other, struck each other with controlled violence, and tested their skills against opponents using different fighting styles. What amazed the aliens most was how the humans helped each other improve after each match. They share knowledge of how to defeat them, Yunki observed. This makes no evolutionary sense. Why would a predator teach others how to hunt more effectively? Because they are not just predators, Hansol realized. They are pack hunters who have evolved beyond simple survival. They improve their entire species by challenging each other. The observation continued for several more weeks. Hansol documented human endurance races where participants ran for days without stopping. He recorded their mountaineering expeditions where they climbed peaks that would challenge mechanized equipment. He studied their deep-sea explorations and their ventures into frozen wastelands. I need to see them up close, Hansol finally announced. The long-range sensors can only tell us so much. I want to observe human behavior directly. Baum checked the tactical systems. The scout ship is ready. I recommend we choose a remote location for our observations, somewhere away from their major population centers. Sora had been monitoring human communications patterns and suggested there is a mountainous region on the continent they call Asia. The human activity there is minimal, mostly individuals engaged in what they call wilderness training or mountain rescue operations. Perfect, Hansol decided. We can observe humans in their natural environment, testing themselves against their world's dangers. Prepare the scout ship for departure. The small vessel detached from Nexus Dawn and began its descent toward Earth. Hansol felt excitement building as they entered the planet's atmosphere. Soon he would see these remarkable creatures with his own eyes instead of through long-range sensors. The scout ship's stealth systems kept them hidden from human detection equipment as they flew over vast forests and towering mountains. Hansol marveled at the raw beauty and obvious danger of the human homeworld. No wonder these creatures had developed such remarkable survival abilities. Landing site located, Yunki announced. A valley surrounded by peaks. Far from human settlements, but within range of our observation equipment. The scout ship touched down gently in a clearing surrounded by dense forest. Hansol immediately began setting up sensors and recording equipment, while his crew established a camouflaged shelter. Remarkable, Sora said as she monitored local communications. Even in this remote area, I am detecting human presence. There appears to be an individual conducting solo survival training approximately 15 kilometers from our position. Hansol felt a thrill of anticipation. Can you monitor his activities? Yes. The human appears to be testing himself against this environment without technological assistance. He is using only basic tools and his own abilities to survive in conditions that would challenge our environmental suits. Over the next 2 days, the crew observed the lone human as he navigated the dangerous terrain, found food and water, built shelter, and moved through the wilderness with confidence that amazed them. The human seemed completely at home in an environment that would kill most galactic species within hours. He is not just surviving, Baum observed. He is thriving. Look how efficiently he moves, how quickly he adapts to changing conditions. And he seems to be enjoying himself, Sora added, after monitoring the human's emotional patterns. He views this as a positive challenge, not a struggle for survival. Hansol was busy recording everything when the first warning alarms began to sound in their scout ship. Yunki rushed to the control panel, his crystal body flashing with alarm colors. "We have a problem," the navigator announced. "Multiple system failures. The atmospheric processors are overloading, and the power distribution network is fluctuating." "How is that possible?" Hansol demanded. "This ship was fully inspected before departure." Baum was already moving toward the emergency systems. "Unknown, but we need to land immediately for repairs." The scout ship began an emergency descent as more systems failed. Warning lights flashed throughout the small vessel as Yunki fought to maintain control. They crashed through the forest canopy and hit the ground with tremendous force, sliding through trees and rocks before finally coming to rest in a small valley. Smoke rose from damaged systems as the crew checked for injuries. They had survived, but their ship was badly damaged and their communication equipment was destroyed. "The distress beacon is not functioning," Yunki reported grimly, "and our repair capabilities are limited without proper tools." What none of them knew was that their crash had not gone unnoticed. The human they had been observing was named Jin Wu, and he was a former Special Forces operative who now worked in mountain rescue. He had both the skills and the equipment to track unusual events in his territory. Hansol looked at his damaged ship and realized they were now the ones who needed rescuing. Dr. Hansol examined the damage to their scout ship with growing concern. The crash had been worse than he first thought. Several critical systems were completely destroyed, and their emergency repair supplies were scattered across the forest floor. "How long before the Nexus Dawn realizes we are missing?" he asked Yunki. The navigator's crystal body pulsed with calculations. "We are not scheduled to report for another 4 of their days. Even then, it will take time for them to locate us without our beacon." Baum was checking the ship's security systems when he discovered something that made his 4 arms freeze in horror. "Hansol, we have a much bigger problem than damaged equipment." The security chief led them to the rear compartment where they stored biological specimens for research. The crash had damaged the containment units, and one of them was completely empty. "No," Hansol whispered, understanding immediately. "Please tell me it was not the Nexhari." Baum's expression confirmed Hansol's worst fears. "The containment unit is breached. The tracking chip shows the creature left the ship shortly after we crashed." Sora descended quickly from where she had been monitoring for rescue signals. "What is a Nexhari?" "I am not familiar with this species." Hansol felt sick as he explained. "The Nexhari are apex predators from Corvain Prime, one of the most dangerous death worlds in known space. They are perfect killing machines. We brought one for research purposes, but it was supposed to remain in stasis for the entire mission." "How dangerous are they?" Sora asked, though her telepathic abilities were already picking up the fear from her companions. "A single Nexhari can hunt and kill entire military squads," Baum said grimly. "They are 12 feet tall, covered in armored, plates that can stop most weapons, and equipped with retractable claws that cut through steel. But their worst feature is their intelligence. They learn from every hunt and adapt their tactics. Yunqi's crystal body had turned almost completely transparent with fear. And now it is loose on this planet with primitive humans who have no idea what they are facing. We have to find it and contain it, Han Sol decided. If it reaches a human population center, it will not, Bomb interrupted. Nexhari prefer to hunt in wilderness areas where they can use their stealth abilities. It will likely remain in this forest region, but that does not make us any safer. Sora was monitoring the area with her telepathic senses when she suddenly recoiled in terror. I can feel it. The creature is close, and it is hunting. Its mind is completely focused on violence and death. The crew quickly gathered what emergency supplies they could carry and moved away from their crashed ship. Han Sol hoped they could find a defensible position while they waited for rescue, but he knew their chances were poor. Nexhari were evolved to hunt creatures far more advanced than his research team. They could track prey across vast distances, move silently through any terrain, and strike with devastating speed and precision. Worse, they seemed to enjoy the process of hunting almost as much as the kill itself. There! Bomb pointed to a rocky outcropping about a kilometer away. If we can reach those rocks, we might be able to establish a defensive position. They began moving through the forest as quickly and quietly as possible. Han Sol carried the portable sensor equipment, while Sora used her telepathic abilities to scan for the Nexhari's location. Yunqi and Bomb took turns watching their rear and flanks. They had covered only half the distance when Sora stopped suddenly. It knows we are here. The creature is tracking us. How is that possible? Yunqi asked. We have been moving quietly. Nexhari have enhanced senses far beyond normal creatures, Bomb explained while checking his weapon. It can probably smell us, hear our heartbeats, and track our body heat. Stealth is nearly impossible against them. Han Sol made a decision. We run. Now. The crew abandoned stealth and raced through the forest toward the rocks. Behind them, they could hear the Nexhari crashing through the trees, no longer bothering to hide its pursuit now that stealth was unnecessary. The sound of the creature moving through the forest was terrifying. It sounded like a living landslide, destroying everything in its path as it closed the distance between them. Han Sol had studied Nexhari in laboratory conditions, but hearing one hunt in the wild was completely different. They reached the rocky outcropping just as the Nexhari burst from the tree line behind them. Han Sol got his first clear look at the creature and felt his courage almost fail completely. The Nexhari was even more terrifying than the research data had suggested. Its armored hide was scarred from countless battles, and its claws gleamed like metal blades in the sunlight. But the worst part was its eyes. They showed an intelligence that was completely focused on killing. Bomb immediately opened fire with his plasma rifle, but the energy bolts simply bounced off the creature's armored plates without causing any visible damage. The Nexhari moved with impossible speed for something so large, circling their position and testing their defenses. The weapons are not working, Bomb shouted over the sound of his rifle. Its armor is too thick. Keep firing, Han Sol ordered. We need to slow it down until rescue arrives. But he knew they were lying to themselves. Even if the Nexus Dawn found them immediately, it would take hours for a rescue team to reach their location. They did not have hours. The Nexhari attacked with brutal efficiency. It used the terrain to its advantage, appearing from unexpected angles and forcing the crew to constantly reposition. Within minutes, it had wounded Yun-Ki with a glancing blow from its claws and forced them into an even smaller defensive position. "This is hopeless," Sora said, her telepathic senses overwhelmed by the creature's predatory focus. "It is too intelligent. It learns from every attack we make." Bomb continued firing, but his ammunition was running low. "I have perhaps 20 more shots?" After that, the Nekshari seemed to sense their growing desperation. It pulled back slightly and began what Hansol recognized as hunting behavior. The creature was no longer trying to kill them quickly. It was playing with them, extending the hunt for its own enjoyment. "It is going to torture us," Hansol realized with horror. "Nekshari sometimes keep prey alive for days, wearing them down slowly before the final kill." That was when they heard something unexpected. From somewhere in the forest came the sound of a human voice calling out in what Sora recognized as Korean. Someone was approaching their location. "No," Hansol whispered. "If a human finds us now, the Nekshari will kill them instantly. We have to warn them away." But it was too late. Through the trees, they could see a figure moving toward them with the confident stride of someone completely at home in the wilderness. The human was walking directly into a trap that would certainly kill him. The Nekshari heard the approaching human too. Its posture changed immediately from casual hunting to focused stalking. Here was new prey, and the creature was clearly excited by the prospect of hunting something it had never encountered before. Hansol watched in horror as the most dangerous predator in known space prepared to meet humanity for the first time. Jinwoo had been tracking the unusual energy signatures for over an hour when he heard the sound of weapons fire echoing through the forest. As a former Special Forces operative and current mountain rescue specialist, he recognized the distinctive whine of plasma weapons immediately, though he had never heard them outside of science fiction movies. His training took over as he moved carefully through the trees toward the source of the sounds. Whatever was happening ahead, people were in trouble, and his job was to help them regardless of how strange the situation might be. When he reached a position where he could observe the rocky outcropping, Jinwoo stopped in complete amazement. 4 beings that were definitely not human were trapped behind some rocks, and they were being stalked by the largest, most dangerous-looking creature he had ever seen. The beings appeared to be aliens, though Jinwoo's practical mind focused more on their immediate situation than the incredible implications of first contact. One was transparent and crystalline. Another had 4 arms and gray skin, a third seemed to float in the air, and the fourth looked almost human except for having 6 eyes. The creature hunting them was clearly the immediate threat. Jinwoo studied it carefully, noting its size, armor plating, and movement patterns. It was behaving like an apex predator that was completely confident in its abilities. That confidence might be its weakness. Jinwoo called out in Korean, hoping to distract the creature and give the trapped beings a chance to escape. The monster's head snapped toward his position immediately, and Jinwoo found himself looking into eyes that showed intelligence and complete focus on killing. The creature was beautiful in the way that perfect weapons are beautiful. Every part of it was designed for hunting and killing. Its armored hide would stop most weapons, its claws could tear through metal, and it moved with the fluid grace of a born predator. But Jinwoo had spent years training to fight enemies that were larger, stronger, and better equipped than he was. Size and natural weapons were advantages, but they were not guarantees of victory. He moved closer to the alien group, staying in cover, but making enough noise to keep the creature's attention divided between him and its original prey. Through Hand gestures and careful positioning, he managed to communicate that the aliens should move toward a cave system he had noticed earlier. The floating alien seemed to understand his intentions first. Jinwoo felt a strange tingling in his mind, and suddenly he could understand their language. Human. You must flee, the floating being said directly into his thoughts. This creature is a Nexhari, an apex predator from our galaxy. It will kill you easily. Maybe, Jinwoo replied, surprised to find he could think responses back to her. But it has to catch me first. The six-eyed alien, who seemed to be the leader, spoke urgently. You do not understand. This creature has killed entire military units from advanced civilizations. Your primitive weapons cannot harm it. Jinwoo smiled grimly. Good thing I left my primitive weapons at home. The Nexhari had been listening to this exchange with obvious interest. It seemed to be studying Jinwoo the same way Jinwoo was studying it, trying to understand what kind of prey it was facing. Can you reach those caves? Jinwoo asked the aliens while keeping his eyes on the creature. Yes, but what about you? The floating one replied. I am going to teach this thing that being the biggest predator in the galaxy does not mean much if you do not understand your prey. Jinwoo began moving slowly around the creature's position, staying just outside its immediate attack range. The Nexhari turned to follow his movement, clearly confused by prey that was not running away in terror. Most creatures the Nexhari hunted either fled immediately or tried to establish defensive positions and wait for rescue. Jinwoo was doing neither. He was acting like a predator himself, studying the situation and looking for opportunities. The aliens reached the cave entrance, but instead of disappearing inside, they stopped to watch what was happening. The crystalline one was actually glowing brighter, which Jinwoo suspected meant it was excited or afraid. This is fascinating, the six-eyed leader said to his companions. The human is not behaving like prey at all. Because I am not prey, Jinwoo said, knowing the floating alien would relay his thoughts. Where I come from, everything is either food or competition. The Nexhari made its first attack, moving with incredible speed and striking where Jinwoo had been standing a moment before. But Jinwoo was no longer there. He had rolled aside and come up in a new position, forcing the creature to turn and reacquire its target. It is fast, Jinwoo admitted, but it relies too much on intimidation. Big predators often do. He began what the aliens could only describe as harassment tactics. Jinwoo would appear at the edge of the creature's vision, force it to react, then disappear again before it could close the distance. He was not trying to fight the Nexhari directly. He was studying it. What is he doing? The four-armed alien asked. Learning, the floating one replied after reading Jinwoo's thoughts. He is observing how it moves, how it thinks, how it hunts. He treats this like a puzzle to be solved. The Nexhari was becoming frustrated. It was used to prey that either ran in terror or stood and fought desperately. This human was doing something completely different, and the creature's instincts were not equipped to handle unusual tactics. Jinwoo noticed the creature's growing agitation and smiled. There we go. You are used to being the scariest thing around, are not you? You have never had to adapt because nothing has ever challenged you before. He began the next phase of his plan. Instead of just avoiding the creature, Jinwoo started leading it on a deliberate route through the forest. He was using his knowledge of the terrain to force the Nexhari to move where he wanted it to go. The human is hurting it, the six-eyed alien observed with amazement. He is controlling the movement of an apex predator. The aliens watched as Jinwoo led the increasingly frustrated Nexhari through dense undergrowth that tangled its limbs, over rocky ground that was difficult for such a large creature to navigate, and through stream beds that slowed its movement. Every obstacle Jinwu encountered, he used to his advantage. Every piece of terrain became a tool in his arsenal. The aliens realized they were watching something unprecedented in galactic history. A primitive human was outthinking one of the most dangerous predators in known space. "This is impossible," the four-armed alien said. "How can a being from a primitive world know tactics that our military commanders do not?" "Because," the floating alien replied, still monitoring Jinwu's thoughts, "he comes from a world where everything is dangerous. He has spent his entire evolution learning to survive against impossible odds." The Nexhari was no longer hunting. It was being hunted, and for the first time in its existence, it was beginning to understand what it felt like to be prey. For the next 6 hours, the aliens watched something that defied everything they thought they knew about predator and prey relationships. Jinwu had turned the forest into his weapon, and the Nexhari was beginning to show signs of confusion and exhaustion. "This should not be possible," Dr. Hansol said for the 10th time as he watched Jinwu lead the creature through another series of obstacles. "The Nexhari is a perfect killing machine. It should have adapted to his tactics by now." Sora continued monitoring both minds, fascinated by what she was observing. "The creature is trying to adapt, but the human keeps changing his approach. Every time the Nexhari thinks it understands his pattern, he does something completely different." Jinwu had spent the morning using what he called persistence hunting. He would appear just long enough to provoke the Nexhari into chasing him, then disappear into terrain where the large creature could not follow efficiently. The Nexhari was forced to take longer routes around obstacles while Jinwu moved through them directly. "He is wearing it down," Baum observed, "like hunting a large animal by forcing it to exhaust itself." "But humans are not persistence hunters," Yunki protested. "Our research showed they are omnivores with predator traits." "Your research was incomplete," Sora replied. "This human's mind shows hunting patterns that go back millions of years. His species evolved by wearing down much larger and more dangerous prey." As the day progressed, Jinwu's tactics became more sophisticated. He began using improvised traps, taking advantage of the creature's growing frustration to lure it into situations where it would injure itself or become temporarily stuck. The aliens watched him use a fallen tree as a lever to drop a large rock onto the Nexhari's back. The impact did not penetrate the creature's armor, but it staggered under the unexpected weight and had to spend precious energy throwing off the debris. "The human is using the environment as a weapon," Hansol noted. "But more than that, he is using the creature's own behavior against it." Jinwu had noticed that the Nexhari always attacked in the same pattern when frustrated. It would rear, up on its hind legs to strike downward with its claws. He began positioning himself near low-hanging branches, forcing the creature to hit obstacles when it tried its favorite attack. "This is psychological warfare," Sora realized. "He is not just exhausting its body, he is breaking its confidence." The Nexhari had never encountered prey that fought back so intelligently. Every attack it made was anticipated. Every advantage it possessed was somehow turned against it. For the first time in its existence, the creature was learning what fear felt like. As afternoon became evening, Jinwu escalated his tactics. He began actively damaging the creature using environmental hazards. He led it onto unstable ground that collapsed under its weight, through thorny undergrowth that tangled its limbs, and over sharp rocks that wore down its claws. "The human has been studying its weaknesses all day," Baum realized. Now he is exploiting them. Jinwoo had noticed that the Nexhari's armor plating had gaps at the joints where it needed to bend and move. He began targeting these areas with thrown rocks and improvised spears made from broken branches. The damage was minor, but it was accumulating. "This is brilliant," Hansol said with reluctant admiration. "He cannot penetrate the armor directly, so he is attacking the joints and wearing down its mobility." The Nexhari was bleeding from dozens of small wounds. None were serious individually, but together they were sapping its strength and slowing its movement. The creature that had been supremely confident 12 hours earlier was now moving with obvious pain and caution. "It is learning to fear him," Sora observed. "The creature's mind is changing from predator confidence to prey anxiety. This human has done something I did not think was possible." As darkness fell, Jinwoo changed tactics again. He began using the Nexhari's enhanced senses against it. He created false trails, used wind patterns to confuse its scent tracking, and made noises from multiple directions to mask his real location. He is exploiting the fact that its senses are too good, Yun-Ki realized. In this environment, enhanced hearing and smell become disadvantages because there is too much information to process. The aliens watched as Jinwoo led the increasingly confused and exhausted Nexhari in circles, sometimes passing the same landmarks multiple times. The creature was not only physically tired, but mentally overwhelmed by input it could not properly interpret. The human has turned the creature's greatest assets into liabilities, Hansol marveled. Its size makes it clumsy in dense forest. Its enhanced senses are overloaded by too much stimulus. Its predator instincts are confused by prey that acts like a predator. By midnight, the Nexhari was showing clear signs of exhaustion and stress. It moved more slowly, reacted less quickly, and made poor decisions about which direction to pursue its tormentor. The perfect killing machine was breaking. Down under pressure it had never been designed to handle. 18 hours, Baum said in amazement. A single human has been outfighting our galaxy's apex predator for 18 hours. Not outfighting, Sora corrected. Outthinking. He has been using intelligence and endurance against raw physical power, and intelligence is winning. Jinwoo appeared at the edge of their vision, and the aliens could see that he was also tired. But where the Nexhari showed exhaustion and confusion, the human showed determination and focus. He moved with the confidence of a predator that knew it was close to victory. "He is ready to end this," Sora announced after reading his thoughts. "The human believes the creature is weak enough now for direct confrontation." "That is suicide," Baum protested. "Even exhausted, the Nexhari is still incredibly dangerous." "Maybe," Hansol said quietly. "But I am beginning to think we have seriously underestimated what humans are capable of." Jinwoo led the stumbling Nexhari toward a rocky gorge where the terrain would limit the creature's movement even further. The aliens realized he had been planning this moment all day, choosing the perfect location for a final confrontation. "He is going to fight it," Yun-Ki said in amazement. "After all this preparation, he actually intends to engage the creature in direct combat." The most dangerous predator in the galaxy was about to learn why humans had earned their place at the top of their world's food chain, and why intelligence combined with endurance was a more deadly combination than size and natural weapons. The final hunt was about to begin. The rocky gorge was exactly what Jinwoo had been looking for. The walls were too steep for the Nexhari to climb easily, and the narrow floor would limit its ability to use its size advantage. After nearly 20 hours of preparation, he was ready to end this hunt. The exhausted Nexhari stumbled into the gorge, no longer thinking clearly enough to recognize the trap. Its enhanced senses, which had been assets in open terrain, were now liabilities in the enclosed space where every sound echoed and every scent was concentrated. "The human has chosen his battlefield perfectly," Dr. Hansol observed. "But he still cannot seriously intend to fight that creature with his bare hands." Sora was monitoring Jinwoo's thoughts and emotions. He is completely calm. This human feels no fear, only determination. His mind shows patterns I have never seen before in any species. Jinwoo stood at the entrance to the gorge, blocking the Nexhari's escape route. For the first time in their long chase, he was not moving away from the creature. He was waiting for it to come to him. The Nexhari sensed the change immediately. After hours of being led through the forest, its prey was finally offering direct confrontation. The creature's predator instincts, confused and frustrated by the unusual hunt, seized on this familiar situation. "It is going to charge," Baum predicted. "Even exhausted, the Nexhari will try to end this quickly with overwhelming force." The creature reared up on its hind legs, showing its full 12-foot height, and let out a roar that echoed through the gorge. It was trying to intimidate Jinwoo the way it had intimidated countless other prey species. Jinwoo did not flinch. He had heard tigers roar in the jungle, avalanches thunder down mountains, and explosions that shook the ground. Loud noises did not frighten humans who had grown up on a world where everything was dangerous. The Nexhari charged with all its remaining strength, claws extended for a killing blow. It was moving with the desperate speed of a predator that needed to end the fight quickly before its exhaustion became a fatal weakness. What happened next would be discussed in Galactic Council meetings for generations to come. Jinwoo did not try to stop the creature's charge. Instead, he moved with it, using the Nexhari's own momentum against it. As the creature struck with its claws, Jinwoo twisted aside and grabbed its arm, using leverage and positioning to redirect the attack. "Impossible!" Yunki whispered. "He is using the creature's strength against itself." The Nexhari stumbled as its attack missed, and Jinwoo was suddenly behind it, his arms wrapped around the creature's neck. The aliens watched in amazement as the human applied what they could only describe as a strangling technique. "He is cutting off its air supply," Baum realized. "But how can he maintain that position? The creature will throw him off." The Nexhari did try to throw off its attacker, slamming Jinwoo against the rock walls of the gorge. The human absorbed impacts that should have killed him, but his grip never loosened. Years of training had taught him how to take damage while maintaining control of his opponent. "The human's bone structure is different from ours," Hansol noted. "Denser and more flexible, he can absorb impacts that would shatter most species." The fight continued for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. The Nexhari thrashed desperately, trying every method it knew to dislodge its attacker. It slammed Jinwoo against rocks, tried to claw at him over its shoulder, and even attempted to roll over to crush him. Nothing worked. Jinwoo adjusted his position with each attack, always maintaining his grip while gradually tightening his hold. He was fighting with the patience of a species that had learned to wear down much larger prey through persistence and endurance. "Look at his technique," Sora said with amazement. "He is not just strangling it. He is systematically attacking the joints and pressure points." Jinwoo had spent 20 hours studying the Nexhari's anatomy and movement patterns. Now, He was using that knowledge to dismantle the creature piece by piece. He targeted nerve clusters, applied pressure to joints, and used his understanding of leverage to multiply his strength. The aliens watched as Jin Woo gradually forced the Nexari to the ground, maintaining his chokehold while simultaneously attacking the creature's limbs. It was a display of technical fighting skill that none of them had thought possible from a primitive species. This is not just fighting, Han Sol realized. This is art. The human has turned combat into a science. The Nexari's struggles became weaker as Jinwoo's techniques took effect. The creature that had been the galaxy's most feared predator was being systematically dismantled by someone a quarter of its size who was using nothing but intelligence, technique, and determination. "He is winning," Baum said, in a voice filled with disbelief. "A primitive human is defeating a Nexari in hand-to-hand combat." The end came suddenly. Jinwoo found the exact pressure point he had been searching for and applied force with surgical precision. There was a sharp crack as the Nexari's exoskeleton fractured, and the creature's struggles ceased immediately. The gorge fell silent except for Jinwoo's heavy breathing. The human stood slowly, checking himself for injuries while the aliens stared in complete shock at what they had just witnessed. "Is it over?" Yunki asked in a whisper. Jinwoo walked over to examine the Nexari's body, confirming that the creature was dead. Then he looked up at the aliens who had been watching from the gorge rim. "You can come down now," he said, knowing So-Ra would translate. "And maybe you can explain what that thing was and why it was trying to kill you." The aliens made their way down into the gorge, moving like beings in a dream. Han Sol approached the body of the Nexari, running his hands over the fractured exoskeleton where Jinwoo had delivered the killing blow. "Remarkable," he murmured. "You found the exact weak point in its armor and applied force with perfect precision. How did you know where to strike?" Jinwoo shrugged. "Everything has weak points. You just have to know how to look for them." "We owe you our lives," So-Ra said, her telepathic voice filled with gratitude and amazement. "That creature would have killed us all. And probably would have been a threat to my world, too," Jinwoo replied. "What are you people, and where did that thing come from?" As Han Sol began to explain about the Galactic Council, their research, mission, and the escaped specimen, he realized that everything they thought they knew about the galaxy had just changed. This single human had accomplished something that entire military units from advanced civilizations could not do. "We will need to file a complete report about this incident," Han Sol said finally. "But I suspect the Galactic Council will have trouble believing what happened here." Jinwoo helped them gather their equipment and provided first aid for their injuries while they waited for rescue. When the recovery ship from Nexus Dawn finally arrived, its crew found the alien researchers sitting around a campfire with a human who had just redefined what it meant to be an apex predator. The final entry in Han Sol's mission report was simple but profound. "Recommend immediate reclassification of humanity. These beings represent the most dangerous species we have encountered, not because of their technology, but because of what they are. Further contact should proceed with extreme caution and respect." When Jinwoo was offered advanced technology or a place in galactic society, he politely declined. "Thanks, but we are not ready yet," he said. "Give us a few more years to figure ourselves out, and maybe keep our location quiet for a while." As the alien ship departed, leaving Jinwoo alone in the forest where he belonged, the crew of Nexus Dawn carried with them a new understanding of humanity's place in the galaxy. They had come to study a primitive species and instead discovered the most terrifying predators in known space. Humans were not just another intelligent species. They were the culmination of millions of years of evolution on a death world that had forged them into something unprecedented. Apex predators who had never stopped being apex predators, even after developing intelligence and civilization. The galaxy would never be the same,